When we talk about Type 1 societal collapse, most people's minds immediately jump to Hollywood scenarios. We picture the devastating events that would bring our refineries to a halt, sever the internet, and permanently shatter the supply chain. We're talking about catastrophic events, nuclear war, sweeping pandemics, a total financial depression, or massive natural disasters. In those scenarios, your survival could depend on a vehicle that doesn't need computer diagnostics or a functioning power grid to keep moving. But what if the apocalypse never comes? What if the grid stays up, the gas stations stay open? You still need to go analog, and let me show you why. It wasn't long ago that all we were worried about were nukes and solar flares when it came to automotive electronics. But progress has a way of bringing us new things to fear. Let's start with the external threats. Law enforcement and the military are currently fielding directed energy weapons designed specifically to turn your modern car into a 2-ton paperweight. Then there are vehicle-mounted devices that fire a focused pulse of microwave energy at targets up to 50 meters away. They are designed to completely confuse modern vehicles' microprocessors, forcing the engine to shut down instantly. And it's not just microwaves. Devices like the Road Sentry or the J-Core Auto Arrestor are physical units disguised as road bumps. When a vehicle drives over them, they inject a massive, fast-rising electrical current directly into the chassis and the engine pan. This high-voltage discharge creates an electromagnetic spike that physically destroys the vehicle's EEC, resulting in a hard kill. If all this wasn't bad enough, the military is actively developing broadband counter-electronics weapons to neutralize or destroy engine electronics from kilometers away. Now, if your car relies on an ECU to run, it is totally defenseless against these weapons. But maybe EMPs are the last of your worries. Let's talk about the code already hiding inside your dashboard. Under Section 24220 of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the federal government has mandated the implementation of advanced impaired driving prevention technology in all new passenger vehicles. This law requires cars to passively monitor driver biofeedback using in-cabin cameras and sensors. The law explicitly dictates that the system must be able to prevent or limit vehicle operation if it decides that you are impaired. Now imagine trying to undilate your pupils when you're running from zombies. If you can't do it, the car won't start and you die. Well, actually, I guess you become a zombie, but it's still not ideal. And it isn't just the government writing the code, it's the corporations that hold your loan. In 2021, Ford filed a patent application for systems and methods to repossess a vehicle. If an owner missed their payments, the vehicle would automatically begin a digital punishment cycle. First, it would remotely disable your air conditioning, your cruise control, and your radio. If you still didn't pay, the car would blast an incessant and unpleasant sound every time you sat in it. Ultimately, the system could lock the doors so you couldn't get inside, or even use its autonomous driving features to self-repossess. Fortunately, public backlash forced Ford to abandon the patent, but it proved exactly how automakers view your ownership of a modern vehicle. This is the reality of the digital age. You're just leasing the privilege of using your car until the system says otherwise. More good reasons to go analog. That's because an analog vehicle like the Toyota FJ40 has no logic gates to hack, no sensors to remotely disable, and no microprocessors to fry. And whether you're facing the collapse of society or just the quiet, creeping overreach of digital authoritarianism, an analog vehicle is the only vehicle you actually own. So let's open the hood of the FJ40 and see if it stacks up against the 4 vehicles already on the leaderboard. Let's run an end-of-days report.
There's a storm on the mountain, there's a hell on the highway, the desert's like an ocean, the sky's like a minefield. I can feel the earth shaking beneath my feet. I'm just it sure ain't easy. But I gotta believe that I'm on my way, oh, I'm on my way.
The Toyota FJ40. You know it. It's the one that you always mistake for an early Jeep or a Land Rover. It was produced from 1960 to 1983, but it really didn't go through a lot of changes. They improved the gearing over time and moved the gas tank to a safer location, but they never tried a diesel engine or an automatic transmission in North American models. As far as motors, you only had two choices: the earlier 3.9-liter F-Series inline-six and the 4.2-liter 2F inline-six. The early FJ40s had 3-speed manuals. Later they added a 4th gear, and finally we got a highway gear so it would rip it at 70 if the winds were favorable. We just learned from the last episode from the Scout 2 how this test feels about weak evasion speed, so I'm picking the 1980 to 1983 configuration as our apex candidate. It combined the high-torque 4.2-liter 2F engine with a new split-case heavy-duty transfer case and the 4-speed transmission with the 3.7-to-1 highway gear. So, let's dig into the details a bit and see where the FJ40 lands on the leaderboard. In addition to the F-Series motor, scoring over 95 in durability, it also had a cool feature that you don't find in other competitors. The pre-1981 motors feature a starter claw on the crankshaft, so you can use a factory hand crank to manually turn the engine over, either for precise valve adjustments or to manually start the engine without an electric starter. You can also hand crank the winch. The 4-speed manual transmission has a life expectancy of 200,000 miles, which is on the lower side in this competition. The split-case transfer case is a beast. Readiness scored an 85 because the radiator corrodes easily. Swap it out for a modern aluminum one and stash a few mechanical water pumps. We've got the same story for the suspension and the steering as with most of the candidates. It's the right balance between simple and durable, but it's uncomfortable and unsophisticated. It's level 2 EMP resistant. The FJ40 does utilize a minimalist analog electrical system, but it lacks an ECU or digital sensors, making it highly resilient to electromagnetic interference. Only a points condenser system is better. A single chain drives the timing mechanism that scores a 60. The test formula prefers a double, or, ideally, gear-on-gear. It aced all the repair and parts availability tests, but it struggled a bit in the mobility categories. A 49.7 in kinetic reach and velocity reflects the weak gas mileage and top speed. Its operational capacity is below average. It's a very tight fit for sleeping, but luckily it can handle weight and it features fold-down jump seats to maximize the cargo area, but it's pretty small. The PTO winch and hand crank helped keep this score respectable. It does have a single PTO, so it finishes up the test with 50 points out of 100 there. And that gives us our final score, which is going to disappoint you avid four-wheel drivers out there. Remember, this isn't an off-roading test, it's a comprehensive survival test that tries to cover all the bases. The FJ40 scored a 76.73, which means it's now in last place, just behind its cousin, the 1985 4Runner. So where did it fall short? Well, it runs on a timing chain, its cargo capacity is limited, and its gas mileage and top speeds are lower than most. On top of that, the transmission is only expected to last 200,000, which is low in this group of all-stars. So, what's my conclusion? Well, I would absolutely love to have an FJ40 in my barn. It's one of the most capable workhorses ever created. But if I find myself road dogging it in the end of days, I need something that can move quickly, stop rarely, and sleeps comfortably. The FJ40 is none of those things, but it is a tractor, a power plant, and an extreme off-road champion. So if that's what you need, then try to find one fast because they're getting pretty pricey. If you want to keep looking, then hit the like, subscribe, and hype buttons and leave a comment. This has been Casey Jones for the End of Days Report. Thanks for riding along.